The great hall of the Galactic Council stretched out like a massive dome under the artificial stars of Nexus Prime. 47 different species had gathered for their monthly meeting, just like they had done for the past 200 years. The air buzzed with strange sounds, clicks from the insect-like Mantari, deep hums from the whale-sized Oceanic Collective, and sharp barks from the wolf-like Fenris Pack. But one seat remained empty. The human chair sat there like a silent reminder, covered in a thin layer of dust. It had been empty for 3 years now. Ambassador Zethkar of the Hegemony Coalition stood up slowly. His crystal body caught the light and threw rainbow patterns across the walls. When he spoke, his voice sounded like wind chimes in a storm. "My fellow council members," he began, "we must talk about the humans." The hall grew quiet. Even the telepathic species stopped their mental chatter. For 3 years, Earth has sent no representative to our meetings. They answer our calls with basic messages only. Their trade ships have vanished from the space lanes. Their colonies have gone silent. Zethkar paused, letting his words sink in. Some of us are starting to wonder if they are planning something. Murmurs filled the hall. The snake-like serpentine republic hissed in agreement. The floating gas beings of the ethereal collective pulsed with worried colors. "What do you suggest we do?" asked Ambassador Trill of the Aquatic Federation, her gills fluttering nervously. "We should send a fleet to check on them," said General Korax of the Militant Brotherhood. His red eyes glowed with excitement at the thought of action. If they refuse to talk to us, maybe they will listen to our weapons. But none of them knew that Admiral Chen Wei was watching their every word from a hidden command center 3 light-years away. The humans had placed tiny spy devices in the council hall years ago. They looked like normal dust particles, but they could record everything. Chen sat in her chair, watching the alien leaders debate humanity's fate. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. Her uniform was simple and clean, with no fancy decorations. She had been in charge of Earth's secret operations for 15 years. "Admiral," said her aide, Lieutenant Rodriguez, "they're talking about sending ships to our space." "I can see that," Chen replied calmly. She had expected this day to come. The other species had grown suspicious of human silence. They thought silence meant weakness or planning for war. They were half right. On the screens around Chen, data flowed like water. Ship movements, military buildups, secret communications between council members. The humans had been watching and listening for decades. They knew which species were allies and which were enemies. They knew about the secret meetings where some council members planned to divide up human space. "Should we warn Earth Command?" Rodriguez asked. "Not yet," Chen said. "Let them talk. Let them plan. We need to see how far they will go." Back in the council hall, the debate was getting heated. More species were speaking up, sharing their fears about human behavior. "They were so eager to join us 50 years ago," said Ambassador Quilex of the Merchant Guild. His 4 arms waved as he talked. "They wanted to trade, to learn, to be part of our community. Now they hide behind their borders like scared children. Or like predators waiting to strike," Zethkar added smoothly. The ethereal collective's representative floated forward. When she spoke, her voice was like music in the wind. "We have tried to reach their minds with our telepathy. We find nothing. It is as if they have learned to hide their thoughts." This caused more worried sounds from the gathered aliens. Most species in the galaxy could be read by telepaths at least a little bit. The fact that humans had become unreadable was deeply disturbing to many council members. "I propose we form a committee to study the human problem," said Ambassador Vex of the Academic Union. His large brain pulsed behind his transparent skull. "We need more information before we act." "Committees are for peacetime," General Korax growled. "This might be a threat to galactic security. We should act now before it's too late." The debate went on for hours. Some species wanted to send diplomatic messages. Others wanted to send spies. A few wanted to send warships immediately. Admiral Chen watched it all with growing concern, not because she feared the aliens, but because she could see how easily fear could turn to violence. The galaxy had been peaceful for so long that most species had forgotten how quickly peace could end. "Admiral," Rodriguez said quietly, "the vote is coming soon." Chen nodded. She could see the council members lining up behind different proposals. The moderate species wanted diplomacy. The aggressive species wanted military action. The neutral species were being pulled toward one side or the other. But Chen knew something none of them did. Humanity wasn't hiding because they were weak or planning invasion. They were hiding because they were building something the galaxy had never seen before. For 30 years, while the Council debated and made rules, humans had been working in secret. They had built shipyards in the empty space between stars. They had created new technologies that made their old ships look like toys. They had expanded to dozens of new worlds without telling anyone. And they had built an army. Not because they wanted to conquer anyone. Not because they hated the other species, but because they had learned an important lesson in their early years with the Council. In a galaxy full of different species with different goals, the only way to stay free was to be strong enough that no one could force you to do anything. The vote came at the end of the day. Zethkar's proposal won by a narrow margin. 31 species in favor, 12 against, 4 abstaining. The Council would send a wellness check fleet to human space. If the humans didn't cooperate, the fleet had permission to use force. The fleet will launch in 6 months, Zethkar announced. This will give the humans time to respond to our ultimatum. They can choose to rejoin galactic society under proper supervision or face the consequences. As the Council members filed out of the hall, many felt satisfied that they had taken decisive action. They believed they were protecting galactic peace from a potentially dangerous species. Admiral Chen turned off the spy feed and leaned back in her chair. 6 months. That was more time than she needed. Rodriguez, she said calmly, send a message to Fleet Command. Tell them to begin Phase 7. Phase 7, Admiral? Rodriguez looked puzzled. I thought we were still in Phase 5. Chen smiled for the first time all day. It wasn't a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who had been planning for this moment for a very long time. Phase 7 is the reveal, Lieutenant. It's time to show the galaxy what humanity has been doing while they weren't paying attention. She stood up and walked to the window. Outside, space looked empty and peaceful. But Chen knew that in 6 months it would be full of ships. Not just Council ships coming to threaten humanity, but human ships that would change everything. The galaxy was about to learn that sometimes the quiet ones are the most dangerous of all. 27 years earlier, Dr. Sarah Chen stood in the observation deck of humanity's first deep space research station. She was Admiral Chen Wei's predecessor and the woman who started humanity's great secret project. Outside the thick windows, robots worked tirelessly on massive construction frames that stretched for kilometers in every direction. The breakthrough came 6 months ago. Dr. Chen explained to the small group of military leaders and scientists gathered around her. We finally solved the problem of faster-than-light manufacturing. General Morrison, the head of Earth Defense, frowned. I thought we already had FTL technology. We had FTL travel and communication, Dr. Chen corrected. But manufacturing was different. Every other species in the galaxy still builds their ships the slow way, in planetary shipyards with workers who need food and rest and safety. We've created something entirely new. She pointed to the construction zone outside. Those robots can work in the vacuum of space. They don't need air or food or sleep. They can work for decades without stopping. And the best part is they can build copies of themselves. Dr. Chen activated a holographic display that showed the galaxy. Tiny dots marked the locations of known civilizations. Look at this, she said. Every species builds their fleets in the same way. They announce their plans to the Council. They debate the designs for months. They argue about resources and permissions. By the time they finish one ship, everyone knows exactly what they have. And that's bad because, asked Admiral Yang, who was young then and still learning about galactic politics. Because it means no one can ever surprise anyone else, Dr. Chen explained. The galaxy has become predictable, safe, boring, and that makes it weak. She had discovered this during humanity's early years in the Council. Humans had been so excited to join galactic civilization. They shared their technology freely. They followed all the rules. They tried to fit in with species that had been traveling the stars for thousands of years. But Dr. Chen was a scientist, and scientists observe. She watched how the other species behaved in council meetings. She studied their history, their wars, their peace treaties, and she realized something that worried her deeply. The galaxy was stuck. Every species was limited by the same rules, the same committees, the same slow pace of change. Innovation was discouraged because it might upset the balance. Military buildup was controlled because it might threaten peace. Even exploration was regulated because new discoveries might cause conflicts. We have a choice, Dr. Chen told her audience. We can follow their path and become just another voice in their committee, or we can take a different road. The decision wasn't made in a single meeting. It took months of secret discussions between Earth's top leaders. They debated the risks and benefits. They considered the moral implications. They wondered if they had the right to make such a choice for all humanity. But in the end, the choice was clear. Humanity would go dark, not completely. They would still attend council meetings and pay their dues. They would still trade with other species and maintain diplomatic relations. But underneath the surface, they would begin the greatest construction project in galactic history. The plan was simple in concept, but staggering in scope. Humanity would build hidden shipyards in the empty space between stars, powered by dark matter collectors and staffed by self-replicating robots. They would expand to new star systems quietly, without fanfare or announcement. They would develop new technologies in secret, sharing nothing with the galactic community. Most importantly, they would build a fleet, not just any fleet, but a force so large and advanced that it could protect humanity from any threat, no matter how powerful. The work began immediately. The first hidden shipyard was built in the Oort cloud of the Sol system, disguised as a comet research station. The robots started small, building simple tools and basic components. But they learned and grew and improved with each iteration. Within 5 years, the first secret colony ship launched. It carried no human passengers, only more robots and manufacturing equipment. Its destination was a dead system 40 light-years from Earth, a place with no planets but rich asteroid fields and a dying star that would provide energy for centuries. The colony ship arrived and immediately began building. Within a year, the dead system had a fully functional shipyard larger than anything in council space. The robots built more robots, which built more shipyards, which built more colony ships. The expansion was exponential. One system became 2, then 4, then 8. Each new outpost was carefully hidden from galactic sensors. Each new shipyard was designed to build bigger and better ships than the last. Meanwhile, humanity's public presence began to shrink. They attended fewer council meetings. They stopped volunteering for joint exploration missions. They declined invitations to cultural exchanges. To outside observers, it looked like humans were becoming isolated and inward-focused. "Let them think we're becoming hermits," Dr. Chen told her successor before she retired. "Better that than having them realize we're becoming giants." The work continued for decades. Human colonies spread across 200 star systems, all hidden from galactic sensors. The shipyards grew larger and more sophisticated. The robots became smarter and more efficient, and the fleet grew beyond anyone's wildest imagination. But the most important development wasn't technological. It was strategic. Humanity had learned to think in ways that the other galactic species couldn't understand. While the council species thought in terms of committees and regulations, humans thought in terms of preparation and capability. While aliens debated the ethics of building 10 new warships, humans quietly built 10,000. While other species worried about upsetting the balance of power, humans focused on making sure they could defend themselves no matter what happened. The galaxy had taught humanity an important lesson. In a universe full of different species with different goals and different values, the only way to guarantee your freedom was to be strong enough that no one could take it away from you. Dr. Chen's final report, filed in Earth's most secure archives, contained a single paragraph that summed up everything. "We have chosen the path of silent strength. We will not threaten anyone, but we will not be threatened by anyone. We will not seek to rule the galaxy, but we will not allow the galaxy to rule us. When the day comes that our neighbors discover what we have built, they will face a choice: respect our independence, or face the consequences of trying to take it from us." That day was coming soon. Admiral Chen Wei, Dr. Chen's hand-picked successor, could see the signs. The council was growing suspicious. Some species were making aggressive moves. The galaxy's long peace was starting to crack, but humanity was ready. In hidden shipyards across 200 star systems, millions of robots worked around the clock to complete the final preparations. The fleet was nearly finished. The weapons were tested and ready. The moment of revelation was approaching. Soon the galaxy would learn what humanity had accomplished during their years of silence. And nothing would ever be the same again. The council chambers buzzed with nervous energy as representatives gathered for an emergency session. Word had spread quickly through diplomatic channels that today would bring a final decision about the human problem. Ambassador Zethkar stood at his podium, his crystal body reflecting the chamber's lights in sharp, aggressive patterns. Fellow council members, he began, his voice carrying the weight of calculated authority. We have debated this issue for months. The time for discussion has ended. The time for action has come. Around the circular hall, 47 species listened with varying degrees of attention. Some, like the militaristic Corvin Empire, were eager for confrontation. Others, like the Peaceful Harmony Collective, shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Zethkar activated a holographic display that showed the human territory, a modest cluster of 12 star systems on the outer rim of galactic civilization. To most observers, it looked small and insignificant compared to the vast territories controlled by major council powers. Look at this, Zethkar continued. 12 systems. 1 species. No apparent military buildup. No expansion for 30 years. And yet they refuse all contact beyond basic diplomatic formalities. They ignore our request for technology sharing. They decline all cultural exchange programs. They have become ghosts in our galactic community. Ambassador Siskatal of the Serpentine Republic raised her scaled head. Perhaps they simply wish to be left alone, she hissed. Some species prefer isolation. No, Zethkar replied sharply. We all remember the humans from their early years. They were eager to join us. They wanted to learn everything about galactic civilization. They shared their technology freely and participated in every joint project. This sudden change in behavior is not natural for their species. General Korax of the Militant Brotherhood stood up, his red armor gleaming. Zethkar speaks truth. In my experience, when a warrior goes silent, it means they are sharpening their weapons. A ripple of concerned sounds went through the chamber. The comparison between humans and warriors was not one that many species wanted to hear. But Ambassador Trill of the Aquatic Federation wasn't convinced. You speak of evidence, she said, her gills fluttering with agitation. But where is this evidence? We have surveillance of their border systems. We see normal civilian traffic. No unusual military activity. No signs of weapons buildup. That's exactly the problem, Zethkar replied. We see nothing, and nothing can be more dangerous than something in the shadows. The debate that followed was heated but predictable. The aggressive species wanted immediate military action. The peaceful species called for more diplomacy. The neutral species were caught in the middle, unsure which way to lean. What none of them knew was that 3 light-years away, Admiral Chen Wei was watching their every word. The human spy devices in the council chambers had been recording for over 20 years. Chen knew exactly which species supported humanity, and which ones saw them as a threat. They're really going to do it, Lieutenant Rodriguez said quietly as he watched the vote tallies appear on Chen's screens. Of course they are, Chen replied calmly. Zethkar has been building toward this moment for months. He's convinced enough species that humanity poses a threat to galactic stability. Rodriguez frowned. But we haven't threatened anyone. We've barely interacted with them at all. That's the point, Chen explained. In galactic politics, silence is suspicious. Independence is threatening. The fact that we've chosen our own path instead of following their rules makes some species very nervous. On the screens, the debate was reaching its climax. Zethkar had called for a formal vote on Resolution 847 Alpha, which would authorize a wellness and security assessment of human space. The language was diplomatic, but everyone understood what it really meant: a military expedition to force humanity back into line. The motion is simple, Zethkar announced. We send a joint fleet to human space. We demand full transparency about their activities over the past 30 years. If they comply, they can rejoin galactic society under appropriate supervision. If they refuse, he let the threat hang in the air like poison gas. The voting began immediately. Each species announced their decision in turn. The Corvin Empire voted yes. The Serpentine Republic voted yes. The Hegemony Coalition voted yes, of course, but the Aquatic Federation voted no. The Harmony Collective voted no. The Academic Union abstained, calling for more study. Chen watched the tallies climb on both sides. It was going to be close. Too close for comfort. Admiral, Rodriguez said urgently, if this passes, we'll have 6 months before they arrive. Should I alert the fleet commanders? Not yet, Chen said. Let's see how this plays out. The final votes came from the smaller species. Many of them were afraid to oppose the larger powers. But some found the courage to vote their conscience. When the last vote was cast, the result was clear: 31 in favor, 12 opposed, 4 abstaining. Resolution 847 Alpha had passed. Zethkar's victory speech was brief but triumphant. The fleet will assemble at Nexus Prime within 2 months. We will give the humans 4 additional months to prepare their response to our ultimatum. If they choose cooperation, they will be welcomed back into galactic society. If they choose defiance, again he left the threat unspoken. As the council session ended and the representatives began filing out, Chen finally allowed herself a small smile. Not because she was happy about the situation, but because everything was proceeding exactly as humanity's strategic planners had predicted years ago. "Rodriguez," she said calmly, "send a coded message to all fleet commanders. Authorization code Prometheus 7, tell them it's time for the final phase?" Rodriguez's eyes widened. "Prometheus 7? Admiral, that's the total deployment protocol." "Are you sure?" Chen stood up and walked to the window of her command center. Outside, space looked empty and peaceful, but she knew that within hours that would change forever. "The Council has made their choice," she said quietly. "They've decided that humanity's independence is a threat to their vision of galactic order. They want to force us back into their committee-controlled system, where innovation is discouraged and strength is regulated." She turned back to Rodriguez. "They're about to learn that some choices have consequences they never imagined." The message went out on quantum channels that the Council didn't even know existed. Across 200 hidden star systems, fleet commanders received their orders. The time for secrecy was over. The time for revelation had begun. In 6 months, the Council's wellness check fleet would arrive at the edge of human space. They would come with 40 ships expecting to intimidate a small isolated species into submission. They would find something very different waiting for them. But first, humanity had a message to deliver. Not through diplomatic channels or committee meetings, but in a way that the entire galaxy would understand. Chen activated her personal communication system and began recording a message that would be broadcast to every major civilization simultaneously in exactly 6 months and 1 day. "People of the galaxy," she began. "For 30 years, humanity has been silent. Today we speak." At exactly 1427 Galactic Standard Time, reality changed for every major civilization in the galaxy. It began as a shimmer in space around the Hegemony Coalition's capital world of Christos. The planet's orbital defense sensors, among the most advanced in the galaxy, detected nothing at first. Then the shimmer grew stronger, and massive shapes began to appear where empty space had been moments before. The first ship that decloaked was enormous, 50 kilometers long. Its dark hull seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. The design was unlike anything in galactic databases, smooth and predatory, with weapon ports that could swallow most species fighters whole. But it wasn't alone. As the cloaking fields dropped across the Christos system, more ships appeared. Hundreds of them. They surrounded the planet in perfect formation, their weapons powered down but clearly ready. Similar scenes played out simultaneously across 47 star systems. Every council member's homeworld found itself surrounded by the same dark fleet. The ships appeared without warning, without detection, as if they had been waiting in the shadows for years. On Nexus Prime, the council's capital world, Ambassador Zethkar stood frozen at his office window as massive human warships materialized in the sky above. His crystal body flickered with shock patterns that his species hadn't displayed in centuries. "How?" he whispered to his aide. "How is this possible?" His aide was frantically working at a communication console, trying to contact their military command. "Sir, our sensors show nothing. According to our instruments, those ships don't exist." But they did exist, and as if summoned by Zethkar's disbelief, a new presence materialized in his office. The air shimmered and condensed into the form of a human woman in a simple military uniform. "Ambassador Zethkar," Admiral Chen Wei said calmly, "I believe we need to talk." Zethkar stumbled backward, his crystalline form chiming with alarm. "Matter transmission? That's impossible. Our scientists proved it can't be done safely over interstellar distances." "Your scientists were limited by council regulations," Chen replied. "They had to share their research, submit it to committees, get approval for every experiment. We had no such restrictions. Around the galaxy, similar conversations were taking place. Every major leader found themselves face to face with human representatives who had appeared without warning in supposedly secure locations. The message was clear. Humanity could reach anyone, anywhere, anytime they chose. But the real shock came when the human fleet's true scope was revealed. The ships around each world were just the visible portion of humanity's forces. Deep space sensors began detecting additional fleets in empty systems, monitoring all major trade routes and military installations. General Korax of the Militant Brotherhood sat in his war room, staring at tactical displays that showed human ships in impossible numbers. His military advisors clustered around him, their usual confidence shattered. "How many ships do they have?" he demanded. "We're still counting," his chief analyst replied, his voice shaking. "Conservative estimates suggest at least 50,000 vessels of cruiser class or larger. But the sensors keep finding more. 50,000 ships. The entire Council Navy, combining all member species, numbered fewer than 8,000 vessels. Where did they build them?" Korax asked. "We monitor all major shipyards. We would have seen construction on this scale." "That's just it, sir," the analyst said. "We think they built them in empty space. No planets, no stations we could detect. They've been building a hidden empire right under our noses." The revelation sent shockwaves through every Council species. Intelligence agencies that had pride themselves on knowing everything about galactic affairs suddenly realized they knew nothing about humanity's activities for the past 30 years, but the most stunning moment came when Admiral Chen appeared. Simultaneously in the Council chambers on Nexus Prime, she didn't use matter transmission this time. Instead, she simply walked through the main doors like any other representative. The difference was that she wasn't alone. Behind her came a parade of holographic displays showing detailed intelligence on every Council species. Fleet positions, military capabilities, technological secrets, economic data, political alliances. Everything humanity had been quietly collecting while the Council thought they were in hiding. "Honored representatives," Chen began, her voice carrying clearly through the silent chamber. "You seem surprised to see us. I apologize for our dramatic entrance, but recent events made it necessary to clarify humanity's position in galactic affairs." Zethkar found his voice first. "You're threatening us," he said, though his crystal body flickered with uncertainty. "This is an act of war." "No," Chen replied calmly. "This is an act of communication. For 3 years you've been concerned about humanity's absence from your meetings. Today I'm here to address those concerns directly." She activated a holographic display that showed the galaxy from humanity's perspective. The Council territories were marked in various colors, but vast regions of space were highlighted in blue, regions that had been labeled as empty or unexplored in official charts. "These are human systems," Chen announced. 217 inhabited worlds supporting a population of over 8 billion people. We've been your neighbors for decades, but you never bothered to look. The chamber erupted in shocked voices. Ambassador Trill of the Aquatic Federation stood up, her gills fluttering rapidly. 200 systems? That's impossible. We would have detected expansion on that scale. You would have detected it if we had followed your rules, Chen agreed. If we had announced our plans to committees, debated them in council sessions, and waited for approval from 47 different species. Instead, we chose a different path. The implications hit the assembled aliens like a physical blow. Humanity hadn't just been building ships in secret. They had been building an entire civilization. General Korax stood up slowly, his red eyes glowing with what might have been respect. You've been preparing for war. We've been preparing for survival, Chen corrected. There's a difference. We learned early in our council membership that the galaxy is not as peaceful as it appears. Some species see expansion as their right. Others view different cultures as threats. We decided that the best way to ensure humanity's future was to make the cost of threatening us too high for anyone to pay. She gestured to another display showing the human fleet deployments. Every major military installation in council space was covered by human ships. Every trade route was monitored. Every possible invasion route was blocked. This isn't conquest, Chen continued. This is deterrence. We're not here to rule anyone or take anything from anyone. We're here to make sure that no one can rule us or take anything from us. Ambassador Essek Tal of the Serpentine Republic hissed softly. And if we refuse to accept this new arrangement? Chen's expression didn't change, but something in her eyes grew colder. Then you'll discover that humanity learned more than shipbuilding during our years of silence. We learned patience, planning, and the value of being prepared for any contingency. The holographic displays around the chamber shifted to show detailed scans of every Council fleet, every defense system, every military secret that humanity had been cataloging for decades. The message was clear. They knew everything and they were ready for anything. But the most important message was yet to come. Chen raised her hand, and the displays changed one final time. They showed not weapons or threats but possibilities, trade routes that could be reopened, scientific cooperation that could benefit everyone, a galaxy where species could grow and explore without fear of domination. We offer you a choice, Chen said simply. Continue the old way, where strength is limited by committee and innovation is strangled by regulation. Or embrace a new paradigm where mutual respect is guaranteed by mutual strength. The Council chamber fell completely silent. For the first time in galactic history, humanity held all the cards, and everyone was waiting to see how they would play them. The silence in the Council chamber stretched for what felt like hours but was probably only minutes. 47 species stared at Admiral Chen Wei, trying to process the magnitude of what they had just learned. Humanity wasn't just back in galactic politics. They had fundamentally changed the game. Ambassador Zethkar was the first to find his voice, though his crystal body still flickered with shock patterns. You speak of mutual respect, he said carefully, but you surround our worlds with warships. How is this different from conquest? Chen's response was calm and measured. The difference is in our demands. Conquerors take territory, resources, and freedom. We're taking nothing. We're simply ensuring that no one can take anything from us or anyone else. She gestured to the holographic displays around the chamber. Look at your own intelligence reports from the past 5 years. How many smaller species have been absorbed by larger ones? How many independent colonies have been forced to join major powers for protection? The Council's system of committees and regulations only works when everyone agrees to follow the rules. General Korax of the Militant Brotherhood leaned forward, his red eyes intense. And when someone breaks the rules? Then they discover that some rules are enforced by more than diplomatic protests, Chen replied. For too long, this galaxy has operated on the assumption that might makes right, as long as the might is hidden behind political maneuvering. We're offering a different approach, right makes might. The terms that Chen outlined were surprisingly moderate, considering humanity's overwhelming advantage. The Council could continue to exist and govern internal affairs among willing members. Trade routes would remain open under human protection. Smaller species would be guaranteed independence from larger neighbors. But the era of galactic expansion through intimidation was over. No species would be allowed to dominate others through military force or economic pressure. And no one would be permitted to regulate another species' internal development or technological progress. You're describing a galactic police force, observed Ambassador Trill of the Aquatic Federation, with humanity as the sole authority. We're describing a galactic balance of power, Chen corrected, with humanity as the guarantor of that balance. We have no interest in governing other species. We have every interest in making sure that no other species governs us. The debate that followed was unlike anything in Council history. For the first time, species had to consider their positions from a place of genuine vulnerability. The old alliances and power blocks meant nothing when faced with humanity's overwhelming naval superiority. Some species raged against the new reality. The Hegemony Coalition had built their entire strategy around gradual expansion and absorption of smaller neighbors. Now those plans were permanently blocked by human intervention. Others were secretly relieved. The Harmony Collective had spent decades fearing absorption by more aggressive neighbors. The Academic Union had watched their research be limited by military concerns. Smaller species that had lived in constant fear of their larger neighbors suddenly found themselves protected by an unassailable guarantee. But the most interesting response came from General Korax. After hours of heated discussion, he stood up and did something unprecedented in his species' military culture. He saluted Admiral Chen. I fought in the border wars 30 years ago, he said. I've seen what happens when strong species decide that weak ones don't deserve independence. If humanity can prevent that from happening again, then you have my support. The voting, when it finally came, was largely ceremonial. Humanity didn't need the Council's permission to enforce their new paradigm. They already had the ships in position to do so. But the psychological impact of the vote was important for future relations. 28 species voted to accept the new arrangement. 12 voted against it. 7 abstained, asking for time to consult with their home governments. Zethkar was among those who voted against, but his opposition speech was notably subdued. "We cannot support this fundamental change to galactic civilization," he said, "but we acknowledge humanity's right to defend themselves and their interests." As the council session ended and species began making plans for this new reality, Admiral Chen found herself approached by Ambassador Skatal of the Serpentine Republic. "A question, if I may," the snake-like alien said. "Your fleet is impressive, but ships require crews. How many humans are actually involved in this operation?" Chen smiled for the first time all day. "Fewer than you might think. More than you could handle." But the real answer would have shocked even Skatal. The majority of humanity's fleet was operated by artificial intelligence systems that had been decades in development. Most human crews were actually assigned to the hidden colonies, building the infrastructure for humanity's expanding civilization. The ships that surrounded Council worlds were impressive, but they were just the visible edge of humanity's true capabilities. The real power lay in the industrial base that could replace any losses, and the technological advantages that made human ships superior to anything else in the galaxy. In the weeks that followed the revelation, galactic civilization began adapting to its new reality. Some changes were immediate and dramatic. The Corvin Empire's planned invasion of the Peaceful Gardens Nebula was quietly cancelled. The Hegemony Coalition's economic pressure campaign against the independent traders was withdrawn. Other changes were more subtle, but equally important. Scientific research accelerated as species no longer had to worry about military applications being used against them. Trade expanded as smaller civilizations no longer feared economic domination by larger ones. The most significant change was psychological. For the first time in galactic history, expansion through conquest was no longer a viable strategy. Species that wanted to grow had to do so through cooperation, innovation, and voluntary association. 3 months after the revelation, Ambassador Zethkar requested a private meeting with Admiral Chen. They met on a neutral station in deep space, with only minimal security on both sides. "I have to ask," Zethkar said, his crystal body now stable and clear. "How long have you been planning this?" Chen considered the question carefully. "We weren't planning this specific scenario. We were planning for survival in a galaxy where strength determines freedom. This particular outcome was just one of many possibilities we prepared for. And if we had voted differently, if the Council had chosen diplomacy over military action, then you would never have known about our preparations," Chen admitted. "We would have continued our quiet expansion, and the galaxy would have continued on its current path. But when you voted to send a fleet to force us back into compliance, you made our choice for us." Zethkar was quiet for a long moment. "Some of my people believe you manipulated us into that vote, that you wanted an excuse to reveal your capabilities." "Your people are free to believe whatever makes them comfortable," Chen replied. "But the truth is simpler. We gave you the same choice we give everyone now. Respect our independence or face the consequences of trying to take it away." As their meeting ended, Zethkar asked one final question. "What happens now? Do you plan to expand this protection to other galaxies?" Chen's answer was as calm and measured as everything else she had said. "We have no interest in conquering anyone anywhere, but we will never again allow ourselves to be in a position where others can threaten our existence. If that means building ships until every potential enemy decides that the cost of aggression is too high, then that's what we'll do." 6 months later, the galaxy had settled into its new equilibrium. Humanity had returned to the Council as an active member, but their empty chair had been replaced by a position of unquestioned authority. When Admiral Chen spoke, everyone listened. When humanity objected to a proposal, it died quickly. Some species resented the change. Others embraced it. But all of them adapted to the new reality. The age of expansion through force was over, and the age of cooperation through strength had begun. And in hidden shipyards across 200 star systems, the robots continued their work. Because humanity had learned the most important lesson in galactic politics. Peace is preserved not by good intentions, but by making war too expensive for anyone to afford.